Nobody tells you this when you start losing weight. Yes, of course, you can expect that you're going to have hunger and you're going to have some cravings and you're going to need to do some workouts and probably say yes to some things that you normally wouldn't and say no to some other things that normally you wouldn't. But what you don't expect, what nobody tells you, is that you're probably going to end up sitting in your car crying for no apparent reason or feeling all kinds of old emotions rising to the surface when you least expect it, seemingly out of nowhere. Because when your body burns fat, it's not just releasing energy, but it's also stirring up old emotions that your body's been hanging onto, sometimes for years. Today, I'm going to teach you 3 reasons why this happens. And more importantly, I'm going to give you some really specific tools so that you can know what to do so that you move through this without getting derailed. Because I'll tell you a secret, this is what trips up so many women and stops them from reaching their weight loss goals. So most weight loss advice talks about things like calories and macros and workouts and discipline. Those things all, yes, can be absolutely helpful, but they're incomplete. Because if you start to lose weight and suddenly you are feeling overcome with these emotions, especially the difficult emotions, right? I'm talking about things like sadness, irritability, anxiety, anger, guilt. Well, odds are that if that's happening to you, you're going to start to think that something's wrong with you. You might even think that you're failing at this, that all those difficult emotions are a sign that you're doing something wrong. But in reality, your body's processing a lot more than just simply fat. So when I first started losing weight, yes, absolutely, I expected that there was going to be hunger and cravings and workouts and all of the things that we talk about in the weight loss world. And as a holistic nutritionist, I have learned in depth about all of the tools, the strategies, the mechanics behind weight loss. And that's what I do every day when I work with the women I coach. But there's one thing that I didn't expect, that they didn't teach me in nutrition school. And that was about the raw, vulnerable, painful, sometimes emotional side of weight loss. The episodes where I'd find myself crying in the car or overcome with sudden grief or feeling just so raw and vulnerable and absolutely confused about the array of emotions that were coming at me, sometimes with great intensity. And when this first started to happen, well, naturally, I thought that there was something wrong with me. And I started to question pretty much everything. And in truth, in hindsight, when I look back at my multiple attempts at weight loss, this is something that really prevented me from progressing, from moving forward. It kept me stuck for a long time because I'd have these breakdowns. And I think that something's not working. I got to go back to the drawing board. And I'd quit only to try and start again. And I continued to meet this roadblock. And it wasn't until later that I learned that there was not anything wrong with me. My body was literally letting go of what it didn't need anymore. And that was not only physical, that was emotional too. And so if that has happened to you, the first thing I want you to know is that you are not broken. You're literally processing. So the way I think of it is it's like, opening wide a closet that you've been stuffing things into for years. I think of that Friends episode where Monica had a closet at the end of her hallway that she had been secretly stuffing things into for years that nobody knew about. And then finally it gets opened up and all the things come spilling out, tumbling down. And that's sort of a metaphor for what happens when we start releasing old weight. So today I'm going to teach you 3 main reasons why this is happening. So the science, the somatic, and the energetic sides of this, so that you can understand exactly what's going on. And then we're going to talk about how we can move through this with more ease and grace. So on the science side, I want you to understand that fat is alive. I always sort of had this picture in my head of fat, like these, I don't know why, they're beige blobs that just sit around, hanging out, not really doing anything, just waiting for my body to finally burn them up for energy, right? That is not correct at all. Fat is alive. It is an endocrine and immune organ. Fat stores hormones, inflammatory signals, and even the toxins and pollutants that we're exposed to in our environment. And so when fat is mobilized, which is what happens when we start losing weight, well, these things are going to begin to circulate in your system. And that can change a lot about how you feel. That can impact your mood, your stress, and your sleep. So like opening that old closet, it's not just the clothes that are stuffed in there, right? There's going to be dust, there's going to be junk, there's going to be odds and ends, forgotten boxes, and that all has to be come out in order to clean out the closet. And then there's the somatic side. Research into trauma and somatic psychology shows that stress responses, that flight, fight, or freeze mode, well, they can get stuck in your body. And so when your body changes, with food, so you're eating, exercise you're doing, your sleep, your metabolism, well, then these patterns can start to soften and come to the surface. So if you've ever watched a nature show and you've seen the gazelle in the savannah hanging out in the long grass, just doing its thing, and then the lion starts chasing it, and there's a chase, literally, that's life or death, right? The lion wants to eat the gazelle, and the gazelle has to outrun the lion in order to survive. And in the happy ending scenario, for the gazelle at least, it finally gets away. And if you watch what occurs, the gazelle will literally, after it recognizes that it doesn't have to run anymore and things are okay, its final act before it goes back to grazing on the grass again is you will see it shake its skin all over its body. And this is literally a way that the animal instinctively knows how to release that extra bit of unprocessed stress that it experienced in that flight or fight or freeze mode when it was running away from the lion. But for whatever reason, us humans, we don't do that. So we are being obviously inundated with stress from all angles at this point in our existence. You can't step outside your house, you can't pick up your phone, you can't turn on any device without getting inundated by stressors from traffic to politics to climate to whatever. Not to mention all of the personal things that are happening to us. So that emotional stress that's unprocessed, it needs to be stored somewhere. And oftentimes that ends up getting stored in our body fat. And then there's the energetic or spiritual side. So there's so many traditional systems throughout history that have long mapped emotions to the body. So, for example, in traditional Chinese medicine, which is many centuries old, certain organs are linked with certain emotions. So, for example, the liver is linked with anger, lungs are linked with grief, the spleen or the kidneys are linked with worry. And then there's Ayurvedic medicine, where the fat tissue carries old impressions that are called samskaras. And even in more modern day understanding, there's people like Louise Hay who called fat a protection. So across these different fasting and body work traditions, all kinds of different people have described the emotional release as part of this physical cleansing, which is literally what fat loss is about. And so when we're losing weight, not only are these emotions coming to the surface that we haven't processed, but we are becoming more vulnerable as that literal protective layer is being lifted from us. So I think of fat loss sort of like a double cleanse. Not only is your body clearing what it doesn't need physically anymore, but it's also clearing what it no longer needs emotionally. So if during your fat loss journey, emotions start to come up, it's not a setback. And it is absolutely not proof that you are weak or that something is wrong with you. Instead, it's your body doing a deep reset. It's recalibrating. So when you expect it, when you can anticipate it, when you can know that this is part of the process, then you can begin to move through this with compassion and some ease and grace instead of confusion or frustration or questioning. So now the question is, what can you actually do when this happens? Because I want to give you a mix of some quick, easy wins and some really impactful, deeper tools so that you can create real breakthroughs, not just experience the breakdown. So we'll start with some low-hanging fruit, some easy to apply steps when you don't have a lot of time or energy to devote to this. And the first one I like to suggest to clients is a 2-minute journal prompt. So you can do this using an old-fashioned pen and notebook, or you can do a voice recording on your phone, or whatever way works best for you. But when these emotions hit, I'm going to ask you to grab your notebook, grab your phone, whatever it is, and ask yourself, what am I releasing right now? Or what do I no longer need to carry? And just take a couple of minutes and let loose. Express with pen, with your voice, what's on your brain, what's in your heart, what are you feeling and experiencing right now? Don't judge it, just get it out. Don't keep it inside any longer. And this helps both your brain and your body connect. And so then that emotion has somewhere to go. And I'm willing to bet you're going to find that some things come out that might surprise you, some things that you didn't expect. Another easy to use tool is a walk and breath combo. So this can become part of a daily practice where you just take maybe 10 minutes, if that's all you have, to go for a little walk after meals, which I always encourage regardless. But when you're doing this short walk, you're focusing literally on your breath. You can do something where you concentrate and inhale to the count of 4 and exhale to the count of 6. And this does so much good for your body, but also for that emotional processing. So this walk with the focused breath, it can support your blood sugar, make sure that you have a nice, healthy blood sugar response. It can help to calm your nervous system and get yourself out of that flight, fight, or freeze mode. And it also helps you to move that energy through, to literally process that energy. So I do this every day. I get out into nature as often as possible. That can be a park, a little wooded area in the middle of the city, can be out in the country on a forested trail. It depends on where I am and what I'm doing, but every day I make this practice part of my life. And for me, it includes a brief moment of intention setting and then some kind of reflection or grounding process to allow me to move through whatever emotions are sitting there just below the surface. And for me, there's always something going on. And it allows me to get this through instead of staying stuck within me. And the third practice that I just love to use so much, and this is so accessible pretty much anytime, is you simply take both hands and you place them over your heart. And with your hands over your heart, you simply close your eyes and you take in 3 slow, long, deep breaths. When I do this, I imagine that I'm literally breathing into my heart space. And this simple act, well, it does some incredible things for you, but it signals safety to your body. And I look at it like a reset button that you can use pretty much anywhere, anytime, as long as you're not operating heavy machinery or doing something like that. And like I said, I use this so frequently. I use it before I start recording YouTube videos because, believe it or not, for me, talking to the camera is not natural and I find it stressful. But I do it during other times of stress, like when I'm trying to navigate my kids bickering, or I'm trying to calm myself down because I have way more things on my to-do list than I have time to get done, or whatever else it is that's gnawing at me in that moment. And then there's a couple of practices that can be deeper shifts that take a bit more time, take a bit more intention, but can be very powerful. And one of those is a somatic type of release. It's called TRE. And this is a practice that you can find lots of information about all over the internet. There's lots of resources. I don't profess to be an expert at it in any way, but with TRE, basically you lay down on your back in a safe, quiet place with your knees bent and your feet on the floor. And you let your legs gently shake for 2 or 3 minutes. And it can look odd, it can feel weird, especially in the beginning when you're not used to this. But this is how your body completes old stress patterns or old stress loops. You're literally letting your nervous system finish processing what it couldn't process before. And there are some incredible stories that people have shared about how they reach an incredible state of calm or release after letting their body literally shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say. And there's literally practitioners out there that can teach you this process so that you can use this constructively to help you move through these old patterns or loops of trauma and stress. And another ritual that I simply adore, that I have used many times throughout my life, is to pair an act of release with a symbolic act. So you can do this in a variety of ways, but simply what I do is I write down what is bothering me, an old belief, an emotion, some negative something that I don't want to hang on to anymore, whatever that is. And then depending on where I'm at and what I have available, I either take that piece of paper and I literally tear it up into small pieces and throw it away. Or if it's safe, I'll take it and I'll burn it. I'll put it in the fire and literally transform it to smoke. Or I can simply go outside, put my feet to the ground, and say, I release this with gratitude. And that's it. And the brain loves this, these rituals that anchor in a positive shift where you're letting go of the old, you're destroying it so that you can open up space for something new. But regardless of what tools you choose to help you process these old emotions and this stuck stress, I want you to remember that your job is not to suppress your emotions. Instead, it's to support the release of those emotions. So these are some examples of tools that can give both your mind and your body safe channels so that you're able to progress instead of being stuck. So if this resonates with you, grab my free Midlife Metabolism Jumpstart Guide. It shows you how to support fat loss in a way that supports both your body and your emotions so that you're not blindsided by this hidden side of change. I'll link it below. And if you've felt these big emotions come up during weight loss, I invite you to share your story in the comments, because by sharing your experience, you can help other women feel less alone. And that's one of the best ways that we can heal and overcome. Weight loss is never just physical. When you understand the science, the somatic layer, and the energetic side, and you have the simple tools to move through it, you'll see that every wave of emotion is actually progress. And that's how lasting change happens. If this was helpful, I invite you to hit like and subscribe to this channel and check out my other videos to support you on your journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.